Welcome back to our preseason breakdowns. Jerry Raganese and Greg Gurenlian here. Today we're going to be going over the Big Ten, Jer. We talked about ACC yesterday and how they might be the best face-off division, but I think the Big Ten boys are going to have something to say about that.
Yeah, I think from top to bottom, the ACC on paper is probably the strongest, but I think, in the Big Ten, there's some outliers who could push some of those ACC guys around for sure.
Yeah, and I think what we learned, too, from this first game this weekend is there's going to be some new names popping up that people better get used to. So that's what I'm excited for when we go through these breakdowns. Let's start with the reigning Big Ten champions still, Penn State. Shockey, and when we look at the Big Ten, we look at the leaders last year in 2020. Shockey from Maryland was 62. Prouty from Hopkins was 61. Arceri from Penn State was 55. Now, once again, that was knee down in a shortened season, but those were the stat leaders. So we look at Penn State. They have Arceri, multiple-time All-American. He was the specialist of the year in 2018. He's the program leader in face-off wins. Great hand speed. He's phenomenal. Glatz, I believe, was captain clutch and a very under-recognized face-off guy last year. You and I talk about it all the time, coming in cold midway through a second quarter against a guy who might be doing well, and he would go in and he would go 60%. And I don't think people, unless you face off, have any appreciation for how insanely hard that is to do.
Yeah, and also the games where Glatz got in, he was going against a hot hand. It was normally, if Arceri was struggling a little bit, going up against the guy who just went 5 for 5 or 6 for 7, coming in cold, like you said. The house is betting terrible odds that you're going to have any success. So to come out like Glatz did last year and have the success that he did, those wins may as well counted as double in my mind.
Yeah, and they have a couple of young guys on that roster, Hudson Bone from Florida, Jack Henderson from Philly, but I think mostly this is going to be the Arceri and Glatz show. You got two seniors that are going to be out there with a lot of experience. So let's look out for that. Let's go to Ohio State. Let me ask you a question. This isn't a rhetorical question. Is there anyone in history at this position who's been more under-recognized for their talent than Justin Inacio?
People forget he played for the Team Canada team this past against you guys. Young man on a roster like that. That is an insane.
He did well, and he didn't just he did well, and he was going against me and Trevor and Nardella, and he was going on streaks there for a little bit.
Yeah, just a very under. I shouldn't say underappreciated, but just under the media is not covering him the way they should, and I think this year he's poised for a breakout year.
Yeah, and he's got insanely fast hands. That's what he was known for. He wasn't really a 50-50 grinder. So the SMG stance could work for him, as well as, growing up playing box, being really good off the ground. I think Justin has the opportunity to lead this conference this year in face-off percentage. And we'll see how that goes, because he also has a couple guys pushing him right now. He's got James Hogan, worked really hard this offseason. James's SMG, improved by leaps and bounds. He also has Faber, the kid from Michigan, who's an athlete, strong and aggressive player. And then Nick Myers knows how to get the most out of his wings. They dominate between the lines on a regular basis.
Yeah, having those wings are probably, outside of just having a tremendous three-headed monster there, Ohio State's wings, you got a bunch of thoroughbreds coming in off the sideline that are going to, bail you.
Tarafanko and those other guys. So now when we look at Maryland, Shockey was 62% last year. Him and Connor Calderon were actually off to a pretty decent start. When we talk about SMG, I haven't seen either of those guys in this offseason, so I'm not sure exactly what they're doing or how they're approaching this. Have you had any insight with Shockey?
Not a ton. We've had some a little bit of back and forth during the offseason, but I know with just with COVID restrictions, some guys weren't able to come out. But with Shockey's just God-given hand speed. 2016 FOANS champion, correct? 2016 or 17?
2016, yeah, he was the 2017 class national champ.
Yep. So, again, he's just got God-given hand speed. Same thing with Connor, two guys that have a lot of gifts. It's just going to be interesting to see how they plug in their God-given athletic ability as well. in the situations where their hand speed doesn't kind of sync up.
Yeah, and we've talked about this in the past. I think the teams that have a change-up backup guy, a guy who is dedicated to the rake defensive counter position and approach on this, are the teams that are going to find themselves in Final Four weekend. And I think that Shockey and Calderon are kind of the same type of player as far as hand speed goes. When you look at the other guys on the roster, Weirman and Truxas, Joel Truxas was phenomenal at Lehigh. He transferred over. One of those guys, if they're willing to dedicate themselves to being a counter specialist, will see time. I don't see it happening. If you have 4 guys on the roster that are all just different levels of hand speed for the clamp, I just don't see it working out. But if somehow they could develop their counter footwork, then one of those 2 guys is going to see a lot of time as well, I would assume.
For sure.
Let's go to Michigan. Nick Rowlett was back after a knee injury last year. He was off to a hot start. He was the 2018 FOA National Showcase champ. I mean, he came out hot after a knee injury, which is not easy, especially on a knee. But when it comes to standing neutral grit, how comfortable do you think he's going to be out there?
I think it really depends on what his knee allows him to do. I believe it was his right knee that he blew out. So that's going to be, knowing Nick, few guys work harder than that. And also he has his brother, Jack Rowlett, still right at within arm's reach. So I do know that Jack takes reps with Nick, and Jack being a big, strong guy, I'm sure Nick's going to be ready taking SNG reps versus his brother, which are just, hey man, this guy's just going to chop you at the arms, be ready for quick ground ball strikes. And Jack can also rake. So I'm sure Nick is going to be up to speed on things. He's only getting bigger, stronger, faster. He kind of came in a little bit light into college, just with the amount of time he had to get back into shape. But again, on this Michigan roster, he's going to find himself with probably the lion's share of the draws. We don't know how these other guys' injuries are shaping up. But I think Nick can handle it for sure.
Yeah, I think Michigan is they're one solid face-off performance in a season away from really challenging those top dogs in the Big Ten. You look at what they've done there without a face-off guy when they were riddled with injuries in 2019. I mean, every face-off guy on the roster was hurt, and they were still only losing games by 1 or 2 goals. So, I think Nick, if he's healthy and can do his thing, could be the difference maker. Let's look at Rutgers real quick. I mean, historically has had issues at this position. They've had issues keeping retaining guys. Right now they have Michael Ott. He's coming back from an injury, Philly guy. Walker Yusefi. They have a transfer from St. John's. They have a freshman, Murata, from Michigan. I don't know. I've seen Rutgers rotate guys on a whim, use 4 or 5 guys in a game. I've seen them put an LSM out there who didn't seem comfortable to just lose a face-off. So their wing play, all that stuff. I mean, when you look at the arms race of recruiting talent in the Big Ten, how does Rutgers compete with these other teams?
It's certainly tough. I mean, I always like being a Jersey guy. I like to say if Jersey kept all its talent, every year Rutgers would go to the national championship. But it's a tough ask. Guys want to get out of the state, and you're sending guys to Ohio State. The football and the basketball poll is big, and I think Rutgers. I don't necessarily follow basketball that well, but I think Rutgers has a pretty decent basketball team. I don't think their football team is what it used to be. So you're always going to have a tough time against the Michigans and the Ohio States of the world. That's just what it is. But as far as, guys on the roster, I know David Walker, I saw him a bunch over the summer. He's a very quick-footed athlete and is able just to stay on your hip in this situation where he does lose. He understands his exit. So I think David Walker is the sleeper of the bunch out of all those names.
Yeah, I know Michael Ott really tried to battle back from an injury that he had. He was making really good gains, and then the rules changed. So, we got to see how that all turns out. Final team, let's talk about it. Johns Hopkins. I have something I want to bring up, which is the Coach K effect. Jamison Coaster came over with Milliman and John Grant Jr. That's a heck of a group of coaches right there. But Jameson did an amazing job. He was a face-off guy in college. He did an awesome job at Ohio State. And, now he went to a quick stop at UMBC. Now he's at Johns Hopkins. He's going to be working with Prouty. Prouty was off to a very hot start last year at 61%. Kyle Prouty is also a former National Showcase class champion as well in that 2017 class. And he was really coming into his own. And I think what really set him apart, if you watched the film last year, was his transitional counters. He was getting to the ball. If he didn't have it, he wouldn't lock his arm and spin in a circle like he had in the past. He would step and go reverse shovel and pull that ball right through his legs. And if he can do that exact same thing, SNG, and he can transition from a true plunger right into that reverse shovel, I think he could have a breakout season. The question is he going to do that or not?
I was fortunate enough to see Kyle a lot this past summer. He has dropped an insane amount of weight.
Yeah, he looks lean.
He's lean. He's mean. He's totally fine losing the top rail battle. So I do think, and by losing top rail battle and going right to one-step counters and in losing that weight, he's done such a good job of staying on the hip and going after that secondary ground ball. He could care less if he has a head on his stick to the start of the draw, which is great. That's what you need. You need that kind of humble mentality. Like, I don't really care if I get the one thing that everybody wants, which is the hand speed of touching the ball first. I'll pick it up second. And if I don't pick it up second, I'll take it from you. That comes in just with his God-given athleticism, his work ethic of anytime we worked out, he's setting his whoop and he's like, all right, this is tremendous. I got to burn 2,000 calories today. I got to get under, 190. I'm like, oh, my man's super serious, which is excellent.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Kyle. I'm excited for that whole John Hopkins roster. I mean, Coach Millman, he coached me when I was in college many, many, many moons ago. John Grant Jr. That is, I'd love to see Hopkins, go long here.
Yeah, I think Pete Millman's an easy guy to root for. That whole staff is, and Coach Millman's come a long way from the long-haired attackman for the Rochester Rattlers when I first met him. I'll tell you that. But he's done a great job, and yeah, I think you also have the Nursery brothers, Weston and Matt, there as well. I think Hopkins is going to be a very interesting case study this year, with a new program leader as far as a coach and assistants, in a world where they can't just have normal team practices. So how do you get that cohesiveness going and create that culture? So it'll be interesting to watch. But I think top to bottom, if you had to pick two guys who might come out of this year as all conference guys, who would you go with?
It's a tough pick. I'm going to go Prouty for sure. And then either Ignacio or Shockey. It's really going to who steps up to the secondary counters, I think, is going to be the big deciding factor. I know Shockey has a little bit more God-given talent, but I think Ignacio is a little bit more of a dog. So those are my, I guess, 2-3 picks.
Yeah, I actually would have probably gone with the same two guys had you not said that. I don't want to – I'm interested because I feel like when you talk about all conference, it means you're getting the lion's share, right? So those are two safe guys that you can go with. If I were to throw a little wrench in this, I'm looking at a guy who would be very comfortable as a counter role, a guy who's going to go into the ball quickly and then immediately go into the reverse shovel or step with you instead of like going belly down and rotating. So it's hard because I don't know if Gerard is, because he's so used to smoking people on the whistle. I don't know if he's developed the counter part of this yet. So if I had to guess, I would guess Ignacio and Prouty as well. I think Ignacio is built for this. And I think that he's going to get a lot of practice with this, with Faber and Hoagie taking battles against him in practice. I agree with you. I think Prouty can really become a stud with this SNG thing. He was actually one of the few guys when we used to coach SNG for the last 12 years that would actually listen and practice it as well. So I think that gives him a leg up. Awesome. So what we're going to do tomorrow, we're dropping Big East. So stay on top of that. This video tonight will be coming out 7 p.m. And Jared, if you have anything to add, go for it.
Nope. Just thanks for watching, guys. It seems like, we're getting some good feedback on this. Looking forward to keep it rolling.
Awesome. All right, guys, have a good one.